Welcome to Young Asia Television.
Hi and welcome to No War Zone. It has been a tumultuous year for the displaced people in the north of Sri Lanka. Having lived nearly 30 years with the war at their doorstep, their experience of its end has been even more harrowing, caught as they were between the warring sides of the army and the LTTE. Since the end of the war, for 6 months they have lived in refugee camps with little comfort, freedom of movement, access to loved ones and information. In the past month or so, however, resettlement has taken a turn for the better, and now only half the original number of IDPs remain in the main Manik Farm camp. In our first story this week, we hear from the government and NGOs about the progress in resettlement and the challenges that lie ahead. The internally displaced people of Sri Lanka's north have been the centre of local and global attention in the recent past. Since the war ended 6 months ago, there have been major calls for their resettlement and criticism about worsening camp conditions. In the past few months, however, resettlement has picked up speed, with a reported figure of around 150,000 IDPs remaining to be released from camps, as opposed to the daunting figure of 280,000 in May this year. This development has been received with a sense of relief, particularly by international agencies such as the United Nations. During his 4th visit to the country this year, UN Under-Secretary-General for Humanitarian Affairs Sir John Holmes addressed the media along with Foreign Minister Rohita Bogollagama about the recent progress in the government-spearheaded resettlement program.
Even at present, all the comforts as much as possible from the government, including health, education, and other requirements have been provided. We have also made it very transparent. The access factor, the movement factor, and above all, how much we could interact, both for the IDPs and to their relatives, and to the ones who want to be their host in adopting them. That flexibility has been now created, and a greater environment has been made for growth in terms of free movement.
On previous visits, Sir Holmes had expressed concern on behalf of the United Nations over camp conditions and other factors such as lack of access to aid workers and lack of freedom of movement for the displaced. This time, however, Sir Holmes expressed his satisfaction with the rapid pace of resettlement, also mentioning that there were some continuing issues for the government to address in the near future.
I think the one important thing to say is that I welcome very much the recent pace of releases and returns of internally displaced people from the camps. It's very good to see, as the Minister was saying, that the number of people in the Manik Farm camp, the main camp, is now just under half what it was at its peak, now just below 135,000 compared to the 280,000 or so immediately after the hostilities. And that process of releases and returns is continuing, and as I say, that's extremely welcome. It's very clear that the displaced people are very glad to be going back to their homes where they can do that, and we hope that process will continue, as indeed it appears set to do, with some speed in the next couple of months. And we hope also that the fundamental issue we've raised on many occasions before, that is the need for the freedom of movement of the displaced people, whether they're in the camps or elsewhere. We hope that process, that problem will be tackled soon. I've raised this with all the interlocutors I've met on this visit, and I was encouraged by the indications of flexibility about this in the future, which I detected in those meetings, as the Minister himself also mentioned.
In spite of the progress, Sir Holmes warned that it would still be a long road ahead, not only for the government and NGOs working on the resettlement program, but particularly for the returnees themselves, who will now have to start their lives again from scratch.
In terms of the process, I think more information, as Sir John Holmes mentioned, more information to the people as to what's in store. So if I am a family in one of those camps, or if I am a family being released and I am going to some places, I should be able to know, that a particular family should know what's in store for them. What can they expect next month? What can they expect next year? How can they bounce back and get on to their lives? And what kind of assistance will be forthcoming from the different people, different players, for them to get back into their lives in terms of education, psychosocial support, you name it, infrastructure, livelihood recovery. So that is essential. What that calls for is a much more thought through plan on the one hand, but more importantly communicating that plan to the people concerned. So if that is done, I think quite a lot of progress with respect to the process can be seen.
Country representative of Oxfam Australia, B. Gauthaman's main suggestion is greater information for the displaced and more participation by other organizations.
Of course, as INGOs and NGOs from the civil society sector, what we also say is that engaging us in the process, but some of whom have resources but also expertise, would make the resettlement process much more easier in the short run, but also will make a resettlement process much more quicker. But certainly the next 6 months is going to be crucial. There is going to be elections, there is going to be a lot of other developments which one has to keep in mind. So it's an opportunity for us to seize. It's an opportunity where all of us have to get together and make reconciliation work for the betterment of not only the people who are going to be resettled, but also for the betterment of the whole of the country.